Good morning, Elle Ingalls here at pressure-free.com. I've heard this expression from a few different people that if it's hysterical, it's historical, which I find interesting to take apart. And it got me thinking this morning about hot topics. I'm sure it still is occurring, but I remember, gosh, it must have been about 10 years ago when it started in on college campuses that if professors were going to talk about something that might possibly be difficult for a student to hear, there would be a trigger warning. That became a phrase, trigger warning. Never had that phrase before. I'd never heard of it until suddenly it became pretty popular. And people would have all kinds of thoughts about this, like college students should be mature enough to deal with difficult subjects. Why do we need these trigger warnings? Why do we need these safe spaces? And it got me thinking about, well, if there's a reaction or an overreaction, there's probably something historical in the person's life. When I was a student at Michigan, University of Michigan, there was a showing of Sophie's Choice, the movie Sophie's Choice. If you're unfamiliar with it, look it up. It's really quite an incredible, moving picture. And as we're sitting in the hall, this was on campus at the MLB building, if you went to Michigan, where they'd show some movies. And in the incredible scene, the Sophie's Choice moment, this woman went crying and running out of the hall. And she was definitely old enough to have been in the Holocaust. She ran out and she was sitting out there with her husband and I think two of her sons. They were around her. She was sitting on a bench out there when the movie ended, and I think they were talking in Polish. So this movie is about a Polish woman. But what went th up through my mind, like my whole heart just like opened up to this woman that she probably, her son probably said, "Hey, let's go to this movie. You're in town for the weekend or whatever," and brings his mother to this movie, and it's about this horrific situation that she might have lived. So trigger warning. So are there hot topics in your life? That's what this morning is about for you. Are there hot topics? Are there topics that when someone starts talking about that, you feel yourself tighten, you feel yourself heighten in emotion, and that's probably going to cause you to go into fight or flight. You might feel your voice tighten or voice raise in pitch. You might feel your gut tighten and you're like you feel like you're being attacked, right? And so how do we mitigate that? How do we interrupt that? Recent client, same kind of thing. There's these hot buttons. The hot buttons can be about all kinds of things. What are the buttons that when they get pushed, topics can be one of those buttons. So the first thing to think about with a topic is, do you have any control over this topic? If it's a political topic, unless you're going to run for office or raise a lot of money for a particular candidate, those are the things you could do that would actually put some skin in the game. Are you going to become politically active on something? And then you're taking action instead of just fermenting in the stew of the issues and the problems that you don't have any control over. So the first thing to discern in that moment when the topic comes up is, do I have any control or not? If you don't have any control, then we're going to go frozen. We're going to go let it go. So the slogan in your head could be, I'm just going to let this go. Here's another slogan one of my clients used, and I'll tell her story in a moment. It's pretty incredible, but hers is, not my circus, not my monkeys. And that's a great slogan. If a topic comes up where you have no control, any heightened emotion, any tightness in your body, it's just going to hurt you. It's really just going to hurt you. And probably the people around you, because if you trigger fight or flight, you're just not going to be your best self for the rest of the day. So that's something to ask yourself. Do I want a crappy day the rest of the day? Or am I going to protect myself and not overreact because this topic has come up? So I had a client who was the head of one of the largest VA hospitals in the country. And she was my client right during the time that there was a lot of distrust and distress with the VA hospital system. And Congress actually passed a law that could remove the head of any of those hospitals with no recourse. It was really the only a law that said you had no ability to try to keep your job. Like it was just you were done. And so my client was going back and forth to Washington. By the way, it was never a direct flight. They would fly her and she'd have to take like two or three flights to get from where her hospital was to Washington for these talks and these things going on. And the blame game was insidious. So I kind of got to get this little inside view of what was happening at that time. And she was the one who came up or just kept repeating to herself, not my circus, not my monkeys. Like she's got to take care of her hospital and her staff. But one of the unfortunate repercussions of what went down during that time is a lot of really great leaders in the VA hospital system took early retirement. They got out as fast as they could. People who were coming up the ranks that maybe could be taking over in that leadership position are like, I'm not gonna play that game. Just seeing what was happening in the treatment that was going on. So it would be curious to see what kind of leadership patterns happened when that was all going down. She definitely got out early. She took early retirement. Um, so not my circus, not my monkeys. If the hot topic comes up, that can go through your head. Let it go. I always go like this with my hands too. I don't know, it's like just brushing it off, let it go. Um, because any kind of discourse or discussion, um, if it causes us that heightened tightness and heightened emotion, then that is so gosh, what's the word? I want to use the word insidious. It's this clever trick that evil pulls on us to go into fight or flight. And then now we're overreactive to everything through the rest of our day. We're not productive. Our brain is so much shut down. Like all these things are happening to us just because one topic came up. So it could be a topic at work, things going on at work, things going on at home, just people talking about certain things happening in the world, the Ukraine war. When I hear Ukraine war, when I hear what's going on there, my parents had a Ukrainian foreign exchange student who was placed with a family, and my parents would always take in students who the family situation wasn't working real well. Um, it was with the Rotary Club, and so they often had these foreign exchange students, and one was from the Ukraine. And every time I hear what's going on, I don't know her name. This was decades ago, but I worry about her. Is she still alive? Was she living in Ukraine when the war broke out? And one of the reasons why is when she had to go back, she was begging my parents to stay in the US. She goes, I just wish I could stay in this country. She did not want to go home. Home for her was to live in a one-room apartment with her father and take a 2-hour train ride to go to her college, 2 hours one way, every day, and live basically sleep everything in the same room as her father. And the bathroom was down the hall. Like that was her living situation. And she just had such a marvelous time with my parents. And so that for me, that's how that topic, and notice if it's hysterical or if it's, heightened emotion, it's historical. 40 years ago or so, my parents had this exchange student. So, um, so yeah, so that's what I have for you today. Look at topics. Um, you might want to make a list, like these are kind of hot topics for me. And you can even let the people that you live with know, like if we move into these topics, I'm going to be using some pressure-free tools. Like, be honest. Be honest is one of my recovery tools for people who've triggered fight or flight. I share a set of recovery tools in my course. I'll talk about my course just for a moment here. So, I work with my adult clients, well, actually, with all my clients for about a 3-month period. Usually at the 6 to 8 week mark is when people have a real breakthrough. But I'm a super patient coach. Some people it's much sooner, some people it takes longer. We're not in a rush. We can't be in a rush because we're literally untangling generations of habits of reaction. And all the years that you've been alive, all the habits of reaction you've created in yourself. So we take that time to understand, first of all, what are you desiring? Why are you coming to work with me? So it could be a health reason. It could be you need more money, you need a promotion, you need a different work situation, something's going on there. It could be relationship. You need better relationships in your life. You're lonely. You have so much social anxiety. You're not getting out, you know. So high anxiety, stress, you've got health issues related to stress, any sort of heart disease, gut issues, headaches, migraines, like anything physically going on, autoimmune diseases. Autoimmune diseases are major inflammation situations to the point where the immune system is rocked. And so understanding the stress response and not releasing those hormones is the first step to healing. It is the first step to your body getting a chance to regulate itself, both the nervous system and every one of our body processes, our immune system, our digestion, our cardiovascular system. So all of that gets to get a break from these relentless stress hormones that I talk about. So we figure out what is causing you to trigger the fight or flight stress response. It could be your phone. It's so many things. And so that takes some time. That's why I call it untangling. We got to figure that out. The third step of pressure free are tools and the 10-second solution. So from a resting heart rate, so we're not heightened. Once your heart rate goes up, now you've got to work faster or you've already gone into fight or flight. So now we're in those recovery tools. But what I share is over 50 ways to interrupt that stress response so that you don't release the hormones in the first place. That is the secret to pressure-free living. We've got to get to the point where we're noticing quicker so that we can interrupt, not release those hormones, and then all of this gets to flourish. And that can take some time because we've been reacting to things since we were inside our moms. Because every pregnant woman gets anxious or feels something. And so when the mom's releasing stress hormones, the baby is experiencing that too. And so that's why it's kind of cool the more we can work with people who are having babies. Like all of that is really amazing. I've worked with people who have said this is going to change our family for generations to come because your children imitate you. And so when you have that ability to be, as one of my younger clients said, it's like you're teaching people how to be mature, right? But you're not overreacting all the time. You're not overreacting when you spill something in the kitchen or when the phone rings or sometimes I watch people's pets. People's pets will give me a clue as to whether or not there's like heightened energy in the home. And so you can see how a pet reacts and what the pet is doing. Um, and it's kind of fun to just untangle all that. I think it's amazingly fun because of the results. And if you want to see results, you can go to my website and just take a look at some of the testimonials, and that will share, people are honestly sharing some of their thoughts about the difference when you learn pressure-free method. So of course, I wish you a great pressure-free day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.